Hi, everyone. I'm Don Rooney.
And I'm John Timpane.
Welcome to the musical Innertube, the podcast born out of a mistake.
We once meant to introduce a soothing musical interlude, but we said soothing musical Innertube, and the name stuck.
On this podcast, we talk to interesting people about their interesting lives, jobs, hobbies, and passions.
Difference makers who really make a difference.
Today on the Musical Innertube, we welcome Heather Zell. Heather is a communications professional and certified emotional intelligence coach with more than 20 years of experience in media relations, marketing, business development, TV production, coaching, but that's only part of the reason we're talking to Heather today. Recently, Heather was a contestant on Wheel of Fortune, where she won more than $17,000 and a trip to the Florida Keys. I have to sound like an announcer when I say that. Where she won more than $17,000 and a trip to the Florida Keys. So welcome, Heather.
That was pretty good.
Okay, thank you. I used to do that for a living. Welcome to the Musical Innertube. Congratulations on your big winnings.
Thank you very much for having me, and thank you so much on the congrats. It was quite an exciting time. It was really great.
And that's what we want to ask you about. How did you get on Wheel of Fortune? Did you have to apply? And what kind of rigmarole did you have to go through in order to get on the show?
So, funny story. I had never imagined myself as the game show girl. And 7 years ago, I was on $100,000 Pyramid with Michael Strahan, the reboot that was on ABC. Mm-hmm. And I was on the first season of the reboot. And what had happened was a casting director had messaged me through LinkedIn and said, I would really like to put you on Pyramid, but you need to apply. And of course, at first I'm like, who's this? Like, this definitely is not legit. Like, now LinkedIn has all these phishing schemes. Like, what's going on? But truly, he had met me 10 years prior. My family and I had been on a trip to Virginia, and we did an open call audition for Deal or No Deal back when that was on. And it was just happening in Richmond. And so we went, and I actually got called back, which was insane. They called back only like 20 people or something. And we had to go back to Richmond like that following week because the production team had set up there. And I was this close to getting on and I didn't get on. And I know, and I was bummed. But 10 years later, the casting person who had edited my tape and tried to get me on the show never forgot me and reached back out and said, hey, I'm at Pyramid and I would love to put you on. And so I did that. And then once you do a game show, there's I'm going to tell you guys a secret. There's an underground game show community where people who are contestants on shows, like we've got a great page where we all talk to each other, all of the Pyramid contestants. And so everybody tends to share casting updates and different things. And so I decided that I would just, audition for Wheel. And so I did. And I was lucky enough to get the virtual audition. So usually no one wants to put you on another show within another year of the first one. They always want there to be a little time in between because people don't want to think, they use the same contestant pool for every show. So it had been 7 years and I did. And I was lucky enough to get the virtual. And so you go through quite a few virtual auditions. You do one that's just kind of like a meet and greet, hey, is this person going to give me like 1-word answers? Yes. No, Pat. They don't want that. Yeah. So they want to assess your personality and your communication skills. And then from there, you actually join a couple of potential contestants on a second virtual audition where you actually play rounds, puzzle rounds, and the toss-ups in particular, against each other. And you try to, beat the clock and see who can win. And so you do a little bit of that and then you wait and then they say, we'll be in touch.
Virtual audition, you mean it's like a Zoom call, that sort of thing?
Exactly. It's on a Zoom and you're on with a couple of other people. So I think I was on with 5 other potential contestants at the time. And we were playing through a couple of different rounds. And then you go off into an individual round with producers where they would give you like the final puzzle, right? In the bonus round. And you would play through some of those, and they give you really, really, really hard ones because I think they want to see how you talk through them at the end so that you're not just standing there like, yeah, I don't know. They want to see you kind of think through it and talk through it. And then they say, we'll be in touch. And then they basically tell you within a year from now, we can reach out and give you a shoot date. So you have no idea. And so about a month in, I kind of thought, I didn't get it, because that happens from time to time. And, but then sure enough, I got an email, in November, and I had about 2 weeks notice that they needed me out in LA, on November 17th to shoot. So that's what we did.
Now you cover your own expenses going out?
You do. So they do give you like a discounted hotel rate, like a very, very cheap hotel rate in LA. They tape at, Sony Studios in Culver City. So you fly yourself out, but you're kind of like, okay, how much money can you win on Wheel of Fortune? You know what I mean? So you're probably going to cover the cost. They also, if a contestant doesn't win anything, you do get like $1,000 stipend just for appearing. So
very nice.
So at the end of the day, it's worth it. It's worth going out and giving it a shot.
Heather, I always wondered, do you practice? Do you bone up somehow before you go on? Can you talk about your workup procedure, if any?
Yeah, so I was actually pretty obsessed with practicing because I was worried. And so producers tell you in advance to download. There is a Wheel of Fortune app where you can play different rounds of the puzzle games. It's very cool. So I downloaded the app, and I work a lot. I'm a self-professed workaholic. However, at night when TV was on or I was just in the living room, I was on my app constantly trying to play puzzles. So
did you think you got better?
I do think I got better. I will say, though, that, sitting on your couch and watching Wheel of Fortune every night with a glass of wine, yelling the answers like, hey, you dummy, why didn't you know that? Right. Versus being on the stage with everything that's happening while you're there is a very different experience. So yes. I do think it helped me in terms of thinking about the different types of puzzles and what they could be. Sometimes you think about a phrase and sometimes phrases are good because, if there's an apostrophe, you're always going to call an S, right? It's sometimes if it's like, what are you doing? There's probably going to be a G in the puzzle. So you start to kind of get acquainted with those types of things. And I think it does help you play the game a little bit better.
And you have to kind of have a knowledge of current, I want to say current slang. That's a stupid way to describe it. But the phrases are always going to be something that everybody knows, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, sometimes, although some of them come up and you're just like, I would have never have guessed that, but you just don't know. So it's pretty wild. I mean, I was lucky enough, and I'm sure we're going to get to tape day, but on tape day, they tape 6 episodes in the same day. And so I was episode number 5. So I was able to sit in the audience and watch the 4 before me tape live and kind of get through that experience. Although I was just more nervous the whole time I sat there. The more I'm watching it, I'm like, oh my gosh. Because I media train people and I typically don't get too nervous. But when in this environment, I was definitely sweating. I will tell you that.
Yeah, I wonder if it's better to not stew in your own prunes for a couple of hours. Just go in, and do it. Or,
yeah,
in your case, you did pretty well after waiting for I don't know how many hours, to go on. I mean,
yeah, it's interesting. They didn't give us a lot of caffeine either. And so I'm like, oh boy, because, we arrived at the studio at like 6:30, 7 a.m. And we didn't leave until about 6:30. And so, that's a long day of getting acquainted, with the puzzles. And they showed us videos on the puzzles and what to expect. We got to go out into the studio and practice spinning the wheel.
Oh,
which the wheel, my friends, is very heavy. It is exactly what you think it might be in terms of, there's a whole thing about how to spin the wheel. You kind of have to like lean over and grab it and pull it and then push it through to make sure that you get a really good spin. So there was like spin technique you had to learn. They put you up in different spots and different spaces. Kind of, they paired us up with different contestants to kind of see, what was going on there and how we looked in the wheel. And then they practiced what they called Pat Chat. So leading up to shoot day, we filled out a Pat Chat card that was just information about us that Pat could talk to us about or ask us about. So they would kind of take us through some of those things, which was super interesting. And how we kind of went through the day, and then legal comes in and legal jokes. We're not the people you want to talk to, but you have to sign all the paperwork about what if you win the $1 million, because you can win $1 million on Wheel of Fortune. How does that work? And do you take it in an annuity? Do you take the lump sum? So you have to fill out all of these papers, basically showing them that you understand everything that is related to the show and its winnings and its operations.
You said something about taking you through tape day. So let's go through tape day, because that's a 12-hour day.
Yeah.
You got there at 6:30 in the morning. All the contestants for all 5 or 6 shows get there at the same time?
We do.
They don't stagger it?
We do. No, we all get, so they all congregate us in a section of an empty parking lot that's right outside of the studios, and it's kind of where we meet. And so we all get to meet each other for the first time, which is fun, because we were all in an informational Zoom about our tape day about a week prior to that. There were 2 different times, so half of us were in one and half of us were on another. But it was cool because we all got to kind of chat and say hi, and that was our opportunity to ask any questions, which I will say the contestant producers were absolutely fabulous to work with. There was nothing that I felt that we didn't know going in about what to expect and what to wear and all of that good stuff. They're very clearly very good at their jobs. But we get there, we all meet each other, and just a fun fact, there's always 3 additional people there. And so for the first few hours in the morning, when you're kind of walking through the processes, doing the wheel, taking the stage for the first time, practicing your chat, there are 3 people in that group that will end up not taping that day.
3 alternate.
3 alternate. So you don't know if you're actually getting a spot until about 10:30, 11 a.m.
Oh gosh. So you've traveled out there and you're staying,
yes.
You're staying in some flea bitten dive in East LA. You're eating popcorn.
It was actually a very fancy Sheridan.
Oh, well, look at you. Look at that.
It was very nice.
But you know what I mean? That's a little rough, isn't it? I mean, if they think, I guess they make a snap judgment on some folks that, boy, this person is just not ready. It's not going to work. Or maybe they're not feeling well. I mean, they have to protect themselves.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. And I think part of the reason too, why they do that is that with flights and everything being canceled and the way that they are, when people are coming from all over the country, there's a good chance somebody might not arrive. So, but I know that they do have typically they have people there that are local to California. And so those people, from what I understand, if they don't get on that day, they typically do get on a different day. One person who didn't get on our casting day, she had laryngitis. So very clearly, she was so sweet, but she just could not talk at all. And then another woman who was on our show that ended up becoming an alternate just got on another episode. So yeah. I was super excited for her. So it all works out in the end, and they tend to people who are close and can come back. So they're really good about that. But for the first couple hours, you are sweating it a little bit.
Did you get a chance to talk to Vanna White or Pat Sajak at any time? Did you get a chance to hang out?
So Vanna came in first thing in the morning when all of the contestants were in getting a feel for signing our paperwork and everything. Vanna came in to say hi, and she was absolutely lovely. And no makeup, no hair done, stunning. Just stunning.
Yes. I hear that from everybody, that she's really nice and personable.
So personable, so nice. I mean, and she said the nicest things to us. I mean, she came in and she said, hundreds of thousands of people audition every year to be in the spot that you're in right now, just have a good time with it. Just, just remember the day, take it all in, have a lot of fun, make it an experience. And just remember when you get out on that stage, it's a game and we're all here to have a good time. And it was really nice. She was great. Great.
But now Pat needed cards to talk to you, right?
Oh, no, he had that in advance. This is what I will say about Mr. Sajak, the king of the game show. That man has very little prompting, very little cards. There's no prompter. He does it, and he is a machine when you're on that stage. I mean, it is a well-oiled machine. He is so witty. He is so quick. I will say he made fun of me for 24 minutes, and that was a good time. So,
why did he make fun of you? Why?
I got Sajacked. I got Sajacked. No, it was he. So I don't know if you saw the episode, but I very clearly botched the first puzzle, and I had everything in my hands in possession of the wheel at that point in time. I had landed on the $1 million puzzle piece, which no one else that day, by the way, had landed on. So I got to pick it up and hold it for a little bit. Mm-hmm. Then I won. Like I landed on a piece that was like a trip to Aruba that was worth a lot of money.
Wow.
And so, when you win a trip or you win a prize on the wheel when you're spinning, if you win that puzzle, all of that money goes in your bank. I mean, even the money that they would assess the prize at. So, you want to make sure you're winning that stuff so that at the end, you're the person at the end, right? Because that's the goal, is to make it to that puzzle. But I did not get Grand Slam Dunk, and it was very clearly Grand Slam Dunk. So lots of people have razzed me after the fact. But at that point, when I did not solve that puzzle, I had to turn over my $1 million puzzle piece.
Oh.
And and it was a lot. But, in 3 spins, I got the $1 million piece. Then I got the trip. Then I got the wild card, which I don't know if you're familiar with the wheel wild card. But if you land on the wild card, you can take that all the way to the end of the game with you if you get to the last puzzle at the bonus round. And that affords you the ability to buy an extra consonant, which when you're in that position, you really want to be able to do that. So I had all of those things in 3 spins. I won them all in a row. And I became very overwhelmed. I think every time it hit something, Pat was like, "You're getting me. Like, this is crazy." And so I did not win. And so Pat, and I got very excitable when I was winning those things. And so Pat said that I was a fine line between delightful and exhausting. And so this phrase, yes. And of course, my response to him was, my fiance might agree with you. He had a good laugh about that. So I think at that moment, Pat realized that he could have fun with me and I was going to be a good sport about it. And so, it kind of continued throughout the show, which was actually pretty fun. In fact, my fiance made T-shirts for my watch party that said delightful and exhausting with my picture on it. Now all my friends and family have one of those, which
I was just going to say, that's the kind of thing you put between quotes, put a frame around it and stick it on your desk at work. Just... when someone comes in, they know what they have.
I'm Heather. I'm delightful and exhausting.
Yes. It used to be I am delightful and exhausting. So, but
exactly.
It was very fun. Yeah.
How different was this from your experience on Pyramid? Because the Pyramid one, you kind of suddenly, you didn't plot for that. It just suddenly came up. Mm-hmm. But that looks like it was a little more involved, or was it about the same?
So Pyramid was a little bit different. In that, I think, because Wheel tapes so many episodes because they're on 5 nights a week, it was a little bit different in that, there's only a handful of episodes of Pyramid each season. And so there were only a few or a lot less contestants, right, that are chosen. So for that one, I will say we did spend a lot more time up front prepping. So I probably Zoomed with them or whatever we did at the time. I think it was pre-Zoom, a couple of times leading up to my tape date. That process was very fast. I auditioned. I did a couple of play rounds. I filled out a background check. And I mean, within a week, I think I was told I was going to be on the show. I mean, it was very quick. We shot that in April in New York City. It was a very interesting experience because there, you have to rely on your celebrities to do well.
Yeah, you're paired with a celebrity.
Right.
Who did you get paired with?
It's all you, right? If you screw up, you only have yourself to blame. I was paired with Bridget Moynihan. She's on the CBS show Blue Bloods.
Sure.
She was also in Sex and the City, a lot of movies. And Rex Lee, who played Ari's assistant on the HBO show Entourage.
Yes.
So
yes.
Those were my two. And I went to the winner's circle with Rex. And Rex was very lovely, but we did not do well in the final round. So
I would say that I've seen Pyramid, and I think, you have to get somebody who's really sharp.
You got to get somebody quick. I mean, some of the best Pyramid players in the history of Pyramid are Rosie O'Donnell and Kathy Najimy. If you get paired with either one of them, you are like golden. I mean, they're incredible. But it's just some people, when you give the clue, some people can get it really fast, some people can't. So, but it was a great experience. And in fact, the other contestants from Pyramid, we are all still really good friends. We had a season 1 party in New York City. So at the end of the season, the contestants threw their own party at somebody who lived in Manhattan. They got the rooftop of their apartment building, and we did like a potluck, and we had this giant end of season 1 party with each other. So it's just amazing at where you meet people and develop friendships. And so the game show has really afforded me to meet some really great people, that I otherwise would not have met. So both have been super cool experiences.
There you go. And I have to ask you the other question. We asked about Pat Sajak. Let's ask about Michael Strahan. How's that ex-NFL guy as a host?
He was absolutely amazing. I loved working with Michael. He had such an infectious personality that was kind to everybody, hugged everyone, wanted to get to know you. In the break, was just a really good time, and a great host. And we all loved, and even in the morning, the producers said, when you go out and you're on the set, like Michael's going to come over, Michael's going to talk to you. Michael's going to say hi. He's going to ask about your life. He's going to want to get to know you. He's great. And he was just that. We all absolutely loved Michael. In fact, my mom and my sister were in the audience for that taping with me, and so they got to watch, and Michael's family was with them in the audience, like his cousins I think were with them, and so my mom and sister got to chat with them, and they were like, he is what you see is what you get. He is exactly this person. So I loved him as the host. So
we'll return to the musical Innertube in mere moments, but first, this soothing musical interlude.
Heather Zell is a certified emotional intelligence coach with more than 20 years of experience in various media fields, including marketing and TV production.
She has developed communications plans for corporate clients, nonprofit groups, and national organizations. Heather says she's happiest when helping clients overcome obstacles to ultimately achieve their business goals and objectives. She also advises companies about how to best tell the story that reflects their brand.
Find out more about Heather and her company, Prep Talk, on her website. Log on to preptalk, all one word, .coach, COACH.
And now we return you to the musical Innertube, already in progress.
One thing I'm curious about, you are a veteran game player on TV now, having done a couple, and certainly
Which is crazy,
Yeah.
John. That's crazy to me. I don't know how that happened.
Well, first of all, you must like watching the games on television, and you must have been that person with the wine in your hand, watching your television and, screaming out the answers. And probably there was a point at which you said to yourself, well, I could do this. I'd be good on that show.
Yeah.
So do you think that there's any connection between the work that you do and your success, so as such as it has been on game shows?
Yeah, I mean, I think so. I think the world revolves.
First of all, we should say what your work is, if you could tell us.
Yeah, so I started a company called Prep Talk, and so I like to say I prep people to talk, right?
Yes.
In all sorts of forms, shapes, and sizes. So I'm very lucky. I have amazing clients. I work a lot with Penn State Health, and I help produce television shows for them where we tell amazing patient stories of patients who have had heart disease or cancer, who have overcome so many different types of ailments. And so we talk with their doctors. So I work with their doctors and the patients, and I get to tell these amazing patient stories. I also work with Ollie's Bargain Outlet, and I help them open some of their stores nationwide with some PR efforts. And so I'm lucky that I work with two really amazing clients that I enjoy the work, and I enjoy the people very much. But I also do a lot of keynote speaking and leadership development training and so on and so forth, which I will say that I do think that did prepare me for the games. I'm certified in emotional intelligence coaching, which I think everybody needs that emotional intelligence even more so now over the last 4 years. I will say I actually put a post up on LinkedIn last week after my Wheel of Fortune experience about the lessons that I learned from the wheel. And obviously a big experience like Wheel of Fortune, right, of being a contestant, that you take away from everything. When you make mistakes, you learn from those, right? When you have a really great time, you learn from that. And one of the things I thought that's really cool is, you have to turn your phone off when you get there in the morning, because if you watch like Quiz Show and all of that stuff about how the old game shows, had problems and were fixed back in the day, no one, everyone is very, very careful. You don't have contact with the outside world during taping day. But what you learn from that is you do bond with people over their stories, because people are everything. Stories are everything. You learn people, you learn their stories, where they came from. One contestant was on because her grandmother has Alzheimer's, and they play the game together all the time. And she just wanted her grandma to be able to see her play the game on TV.
Nice.
That would make her whole world by doing that. And so we sometimes forget how important human connection is when we're always on our phones or our devices and we're not spending time with each other, really kind of just listening, right? The deep listening stuff that is kind of missing in our world today. And so I think that's one of the takeaways, is that these experiences afford you that luxury of being without your phone. I mean, you're so like, oh, someone needs me, someone needs something. They really don't, right? You could go 12 hours without that contact.
Yeah.
You're probably okay, right? But it really does kind of teach you that lesson, I think. So yeah, I think my work did help me with the game show, but then in turn, I think the game show helps me with my work.
Great.
All right, I'm gonna reveal some stuff myself now.
Ooh.
Heather and I worked together in television years and years ago. She was the assignment editor for the station I worked for. I did some reporting as well as the weather. So I would go in the morning and Heather would say, "This is the story you're going to go cover."
Hit the street, Don. Hit the street.
Yeah. And I would say, "Not this again." Or
No
whatever.
way. No way.
But while we were all gathered around Heather's desk saying wonderful things to her, she was entertaining us with stories from her very first television job, which was as an intern on the David Letterman show.
Whoa.
Yes, this is true.
So I wonder if you could fill us in a little bit about how that happened and how much fun / not fun that was.
It was actually a lot of fun, and really one of the best times of my life. So I had decided that I wanted to do a semester in in New York City because I loved New York City so much. And I thought, it'd be really fun to just kind of spend. And so, back in the day, because this was like 1996, right? You went to the bookstore. I went to Barnes and Noble and I bought a book of internships, the U.S. News and World Report book of internships, which was literally like, I can't even tell you how fat it was. And I went to the entertainment and television section, and with my highlighter, I highlighted and it had all the contact names and addresses and people for all of the entertainment industry places. And so I highlighted all of the places that I thought I would want to intern, so Entertainment Weekly was on that list. Good Morning America was on that list. And Late Show with David Letterman was on that list because it was by far my favorite late night talk show. And so I was lucky enough. I applied and I did something crazy for the Letterman application. I wrote a poem as my cover letter.
Ooh.
Instead of writing a traditional cover letter. And my poem was called Whatever. And there were lines in it about how I had worked at TGI Fridays through college. And I had something about I had a headache all day and I have lipstick on my tooth. And where I work, everyone wants to sit in a booth, whatever. It was like this funny poem about like my week, just like my week
Right.
at school and work, right? And so I sent that in. And when I got the call that I had an interview, I couldn't even believe it. I was over the moon. And the day that I went in, and when you go into Letterman, it's an aggressive interview day. Every single department that hires interns in that group, which I think was something like 15 departments, interviewed you.
Wow.
And then they had a process where they took a Polaroid picture of you and then they put them all up on a corkboard and they decided who they liked the most. And then they decided like where they put you. Right. So I think they narrow it down to like 1,500 people a semester they interviewed. And then they picked, I think it was 15 a semester. And so I was lucky enough to get chosen. But the day that I went for my interview, every time I walked in, they were like, "Oh, it's Poem Girl." And so I became known as the Poem Girl, which was really funny to me. But it was great. But I was chosen to intern in the talent department. And that is the department that booked all the celebrity guests. And dealt with all of the celebrity guests and the talent producers who wrote the segment notes for the show, who put together the interview segments for Dave. So it was really, I mean, in the 90s to be at Late Show with David Letterman, when it was really the height of when they had just moved over and Worldwide Pants was on CBS. And so, they had moved out of their NBC digs and moved over to the Ed Sullivan Theater. And it was pretty great. I got to be on the show twice. To make an appearance twice. I got to interview kids for the Kids Tell Joke segments and take cameras out to schools all over New York and then pick my favorite kids and bring them in for interviews and help put together the segment. It really just was an absolutely incredible, like you can never, I don't know, I couldn't, and it was certainly a resume starter every job I ever had. Tell me about Letterman, right? Yeah.
There you go. So, of course, we've gone through Pat Sajak. We've gone through Michael Strahan. Now let's find out about David Letterman. How was he?
So, I didn't have that much interaction with Dave. So, when you're an intern, you are working a ton every week. And so we didn't really interact that frequently at all. It's funny. I met a lot of the other celebrities and spent more time with them than Dave, just because Dave is in a different area of where I was working. Right. But I will tell you that my favorite person that I met in the entire time I was there was Howard Stern.
Howard.
Really?
Yeah. He was on the show quite a few times. So Letterman taped in New York City. And as you know, most celebrities are based in LA. And so at the time, if you needed somebody, like if a flight got canceled or a guest wasn't going to be there last minute, it was always, Howard or it was Regis Philbin because
Regis,
right? Regis. So, and fun fact, Regis also very cool. Regis, his daughter was also an intern at the show, I think the semester or 2 semesters before me. He was on a lot, but Howard came on pretty frequently, and he was always so nice, so fun, just really great. Like telling me like, Heather, are you learning stuff? Are you doing more than getting bagels for people? What are you doing to learn this industry? Because you really don't know if you want to work at it until you learn it. And what are you doing to learn it? Now, I was very lucky. My mentor in the talent department put me on all different types of projects. I got to do all kinds of human interest guests, and it was awesome. So I had a great experience. But and then he was like, here's Gary's card. If you want to come over and intern with us. And I was like, Howard, I can't just be an intern every year. I have to get paid at some point, like I got to
right.
Yeah, he was fabulous. So.
All right. So she's poem girl. She's game show girl.
Yeah.
And she's also a talk girl or a talk instructor girl. So she's got everything going. Heather, if somebody wants to engage your services to figure out how to talk to people, how would they get in touch with you?
So they can pretty easily get to my website. That's Prep Talk. So PREPTALK.coach, just like it is coach, COACH. They could also email me at preptalkhz, like my initials, Heather Zell, preptalkhz@gmail.com. And they can shoot me a message, but please don't send me a message that says, how did you not know Grand Slam Dunk? Because trust me, I am never going to live that down the rest of my life. I already know that. My poor fiance was sitting, in the audience like, oh my God, she had the $1 million puzzle piece. What did she do? And he got to make an appearance on the show, which was very cool. He got to wave to everybody when I got to the bonus round. So our joke is he made it too. This is great. Anyone feel free to reach out. I'm actually putting together a really cool keynote based on my Wheel of Fortune experience called The Lessons I Learned from the Wheel. That's very similar to my LinkedIn post. So if anyone wants to connect with me on LinkedIn and check that out, everyone has been telling me that there were some good observations to take from the experience. But it was fun. And this is what I'm going to say, right? And this is what I said in my LinkedIn post. If you want to be on a game show, if you want to try something, no one is stopping you from doing it. Apply, see what happens, get the virtual interview, right? Like you're not going to get things done from just sitting on your couch saying, hey, I might be good on that game show if you don't try. And so I would just encourage everybody to try because the best experience of your life might be sitting around that next corner. You don't know.
Beautifully put.
Well, she's delightful and exhausting. She's Heather Zell, and we really loved your time here on the Innertube. And,
really have.
Congratulations. And please get in touch with us the next time you go on a game show.
I promise. I'm going to wait about a year or so, and then you never know. You know what I really want to do? Really want to do press your luck. No whammies, no whammies. Stop. That's the next dream. So who knows? We'll see. We'll see.
Well, follow your dream, girl. Follow your dream. Thanks, Heather.
Thank you both very much. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
And thank you for listening to the Musical Innertube.
Hey, let us know how we're doing. Send us an email at musicalinnertube, all one word, @gmail.com.
Do you know someone with a great story to tell? Let us know. Send us an email or log in to our website, musicalinnertube.com, and click on the microphone in the lower right-hand corner to leave us a voicemail.
And while you're on our website, take a few minutes to listen to past episodes of the podcast. They're all there, along with pictures and biographies of our guests, blog posts, and lots more.
And as always, our thanks to virtual band Car Radio Dog for providing us with our theme music.